Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on Industry 5.0, feature of Industry 5.0. We have our world famous speaker, Professor David Smith and Mr. Michael Rana. First, I would like to give chance Professor David Smith.
Well, Sharif, thank you. Industry 5.0 is a term that is being used more and more, and it's a natural evolution of what we see from Industry 4.0. Uh, Industry 5.0 is also known as the fifth industrial revolution, and it is really an emerging phase of industrialization that sees humans working alongside and in conjunction with advanced technology. And AI powered tools, advanced technologies, machine vision, others like that, to replace workplace processes. And these are often being augmented by more types of robots and more types of visualization, particularly augmented reality. This is coupled, though, with a more human centered focus, as well as increasing the resiliency of your process. And a new area really is an improved focus on sustainability, and particularly as we see what has emerged out of the last COP 27 on the UN side. Encompassing, though, more than just manufacturing, this new phase builds upon Industry 4.0 is enabled by developments in IT. They include many other things such as Internet of Things, particularly the tremendous growth of sensing and sensing at the edge, artificial intelligence, uh, increased automation. The data science is really coming to the forefront here with uh, data analysis both on large data sets and data analysis on smaller sets directly tied into the Internet of Things. Machine learning, robotics, smart systems, visualization, and increasingly applying the concept of digital twins. And this will continue a lot. Um, if you look at broadening upon the concepts of Industry 4.0, this new Industry 5.0 is described by the EU as providing a vision of industry that aims beyond efficiency and production as the sole goals and reinforces the role and contributions of industry to society. So you can see this is a really big change from what we've seen in the prior industrial ages. Um, Another quote from the EU is that it places the well being of the workers at the center of the production process and uses new technology to provide prosperity beyond jobs and growth while respecting the production limits of the planet. So you see really a lot more things, but it's useful, I think, to just take a moment and let's go back actually a couple of hundred years. In the first industrial uh, revolution began way back in the 18th century and has moved through others to get us here. So if you go back to Industry 1.0, which began around 1780, it focused on industrial production that was based on machines and powered by steam and water. 100 years later, the second industrial revolution was based on electrification and mass production through assembly lines. And this went on for quite a while. Uh, if you go and look at Industry 3.0, which began really in the 70s, it was based around the concept of digitalization, included automation, elementary AI, connected devices, data analytics, cyber physical systems, and digital transformation. That is where we have been now. And so we are now entering the fifth where the man and machines work together. And this is one that has a lot of it. And it will help us look at the creation of higher value jobs that offer greater personalization for customers and for the workers, and should have improved design freedom for the workers as well. And we will see that continuing to go forward. And I think we're going to see a lot more as we go forward. But I think, Sharif, this is probably a good introduction to get us there. And then let's let Michael, since he is one of the fathers of it, begin to add more.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, David. You said it. So you introduced the Industry 5.0, which was adopted by European Commission on January 7th, 2021. And it was adopted in European Sustainable Development Framework, referring, among others, to Industry 5.0 definition, which I published 4 years before, generally 17th month after the launch of Industry 5.0. And these concepts are or in some way they are different, because the original Industry 5.0 is built on the principles of systematic waste prevention applicable to industries. And not only the physical waste, but the physical, social, urban process and wasting of time. And if you consider that not a single of these is generally directly related to AI or technology. The reason for that is that to technology is related Industry 4.0. So the question is, if we should, or what should be really different between 4 and 5, if I take into consideration the introduction done by European Commission. If we speak about working machine and people together, they do it since the first industrial revolution. There is no change. The change is only that the machine is faster, maybe smarter, but it is still man working with a machine. And that there is no robot, but cobot is just making the other robots smaller. I am, for all my life, I spent in factories because I started as a steel factory worker. I do not have any academic degree. This is why I can hardly speak about the theory, because everything was implemented in a practice. And just last week, Jaguar Land Rover assigned a new advisory board, which should take the company in direction of Industry 5.0. This is written in the statement. NASA is speaking about it, and many others. And it is important to understand that if we will change, generally the Industry 5.0 is change of the mindset. But part of the change is even breaking the silos between the industries. And this is something which the European Commission is completely ignoring. But without breaking the silos, the higher efficiency across the global supply chain will not be possible, because we just switch the names. We don't say black, we say green. We don't say combustion engine, we say electric engine. But it's not about the engine in the car. It's about the way how we use the car. And again, this is completely missing in the concept of European Commission. I have discussed it with the heads of European Commission after the introduction. And they promised support, which never came, but it doesn't matter. At the moment, Industry 5.0 is represented in 111 countries by 111 ambassadors, and many more people and companies are joining. So my question to you to say about the concept, why or what should be the role of the human in this human-centric approach? Is human the one who lead the machines, or is the human just a component in the system to do the work which cannot be done at the moment by the machine? What do you think? Because if I look back at the word robot, which is 101 years old, then already the author at the time, Karel Čapek, warned against the dependency and generally addiction on the technology. So what do you think is the role of human in this human-centric approach? That's a question which I would like to have answered, but not a single expert from European Commission was able to answer this question to me. So maybe you have deeper knowledge about it.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. I think you have a presentation.
Well, this is just to further amplify what I had said earlier. And it begins to look at the evolution of the industries from Industry 1.0 all the way through 4.0 and now extending Industry 5.0. And as Michael said, there's some big differences to it as you begin to go forward. Industry 4.0 is really built upon digitalization and how digitalization has begun to extend things. And part of digitalization is the use of more sensors. You know, we started with robotics really as part of Industry 3.0. So, you know, as Michael said, about 100 years ago, and really took up a lot of steam in the last 50 years of beginning to apply it. First, as very manually controlled, limited uh, application of robots to ones where uh, they're increasingly autonomous and using their own machine vision and things and their autonomous routines can make changes on the fly. Um, and we begin to see the digitalization of Industry 4.0 tied in not just with the pure manufacturing process, but also the supply chain. We saw it beginning to be tied in with factory automation systems, going back to customer management systems. But Industry 5.0 is really trying to begin to do the cyber physical interfaces like Michael talked about and we talked about earlier, and really is being built upon more cognitive systems with more intelligence going in as opposed to just pure digitalization. That's why we have heard so much in the last couple of years about transformation, both digital transformation and cyber physical transformation. The whole concept of green manufacturing is really at the forefront now as you're beginning to see the concern for the environment come into place. And this is not just in the developed nations, but as we've talked before, is increasingly in the developing nations. And one of the big outputs of COP27, the UN forum, is that there's now money allocated explicitly to developing nations to repair and fix what the damages of climate change had done. And a lot of that is being applied in a Industry 5.0 framework. You see cultural collaboration. Uh, the worker is now more the key. In Industry 4.0, it was how do I really take the automation that began in Industry 3.0, extend it and optimize it using digital means. In Industry 5.0, the worker and how the culture collaboration comes back into place. And how can the worker be enhanced, not just in the workplace, but under some of the definitions of Industry 5.0 outside the workplace, in the community at home. And finally, as this chart kind of illustrates, is that you see mass customization beginning to happen. Once again, it's because it's building upon what has been done in each of the prior industry revolutions. You can begin to see as it moves forward and is applied, we have more capability, not just for mass production of the same thing, which was one of the hallmarks of Industry 2.0, but now mass customization on a large scale. And we're seeing it applied all the time. Just as I was going through the last several weeks and ordering some Christmas presents online, it's amazing how easy it is today to customize, to put names on them, to change patterns, to do other elements like that, which in 5 years ago would have been very difficult to do. So we're seeing this whole mass customization really go to the forefront. And it also is incorporating into some of the trends that are a reaction to the COVID pandemic. You know, prior to COVID, we saw manufacturing begin to be just distributed into the lowest cost place that could do it. Now what we're seeing is we're re-seeing manufacturing distributed around the world, because we realize that disruptions like what COVID caused are very harmful to people, very harmful to countries. And we're taking part of the Industry 5.0 concepts and deploying them as we're restarting factories, as we're new building factories, establishing new supply chains around the world as a reaction to the over centralization of manufacturing, which is we saw pre-COVID. So, Sharif, I hope this kind of helps again put us forward in moving it. And Michael, I don't know if it exactly answered your question, but I tried to throw some of the elements of your question into it.
Thank you, Mr. Michael Rana.
You're muted. Michael, you're still muted.
Sorry for that. Thank you for the information. I will try to share a slide as well. I just had yesterday a presentation related to e-waste generally, but I'm not sure whether I will be able to share this. Share screen, okay. All right, and that's just one slide from the presentation which I had. Let me pick it up here and here. Generally, we are speaking, do you see the slide, the digital waste? Do you see the slide?
It's coming up.
Okay. So it's generally about the digital waste. And what is interesting that generally, when I make the analytics of stored data in the data centers, I find out that 85 to 90, up to 92% of stored data will never be used again. So generally, data centers are nothing else than big data landfills. 75% of 85% of images taken on our smartphones become immediately obsolete because we will not watch them anymore. It's just blocked the memory. 95% of data by barcode scanner are not utilized. And 75% of the mobile phone users with weather app don't look outside of the window, but at the screen, what is the weather outside. And generally, if there will be shutdown, electric shutdown, blackout, we will get all the data will be lost. And for example, LinkedIn does not store analytics more than 24 months. So is the question, I just get out of the presentation, is the question whether you, Dr. David, really speak, Professor David, really speak about the transformation, or is it just a modification of the current situation? Because you mentioned the possibility to order custom-made products. Yes, this is here. But did it change the volumes of the product? Did it change the business models of the companies? Did it change really the supply chains that these products are not made in China but are made next door? I have the trouble that I really spent all my life in factories. And I don't see this transformation because for many of my clients and many companies to whom I spoke, Industry 4.0 was buy a machine, buy a robot, buy the IT, and let's it make more. Because more means more money, more profit, and so on. But if they didn't care about the waste of, about the volumes of waste they are generating. And I can tell you, to be in a factory where the manager realized that 85% of all products he made, new products, will become waste. I don't know whether you have ever seen a general manager crying in his office. I saw it. And it was not a single time, because he never realized that he generally produced waste in a form of new products. So for me, it is really important to change the mindset, because you have seen the volume of data and everything what we have, but we don't use it. We built new smart cities, which are filled with smart sensors, but we forgot that a smart city without a wise citizen using it wisely will deliver nothing to the citizens themselves. It will control them better, which is very well shown in China. So it must be, and for me, Industry 5.0 is a really global new ecosystem and evolution in which the business models must change. And this is why there is only one role model, and I mentioned it last time. It's only one role model of Industry 5.0, and this is nature. Because nature does not waste. Waste and wasting is has been developed generally by humans. For the tree, the falling leaf is not waste. It is just a source for something else. And this source, it's very important, because even AI and technology is really greatly developing. Still, it does not have the ability at the moment to take something which, I don't know, which is a plate, broken plate. It will recognize broken plate as a broken plate. But the Japanese methodology called Ikagi, they will connect this broken plate through gold generally, and they will make the most valuable plates out of it. But the machine will not, because it will rate it as waste. So would really the digitalization help us to eat, to bake the bread? Because in a virtual world, nobody answered to me how taste the bread in metaverse. And I think this is the topic. And my second question to you, do you think that people are more addicted at the moment to the technology? Which means addiction means something which is unhealthy. So it's so strong that you can hardly give your mobile phone out of your hand. So my question is, do you think the addiction is already achieved, or we reach this moment of addiction, or not yet, or we will never reach it? What is your opinion about this?
Wow. We are increasingly addicted to our environment, and our environment today has a lot of digital to it. But I can also go back and look at the transformations of other things that has caused us to shift. You know, when we began to transition from stones and using wood for agriculture to using metal, and then horsepower, mule powered ways to power that revolution. It changed the way we acted back then, and what we could farm and what we could support. Then we took that same thing and moved it into being able to use tractors, and that changed how we interacted again. When we saw the advent of electricity being used inside homes, as opposed to just using kerosene lights and stuff like that, that changed how we interacted with our environment too. When we saw telecommunications, even the very primitive early telephones using switchboards and things, again, that changed how we interacted with what we're doing. So whether it is us being addicted to using our devices, and yes, I use it all the time too much, and have to force myself to unplug, it's a natural evolution as we see. And as we begin to see humankind, and I'm using humankind very explicit, transform, we will continue to adapt. I mean, I am looking forward to the time where instead of getting on an airplane to travel, I can travel maybe by using quantum teleportation and being able to travel much more rapidly and do elements like it. You know, I I hate packing a bag for a trip from Austin through Europe or to Asia, because I know I'm going to miss stuff in my bags and I want to bring stuff back. I would rather teleport that back as we get that way. So, but we can see how it's changed. I remember going back way when I was young, where you'd get on a train or do long car trips, but you'd pack a trunk to have your clothes and space, as opposed to a suitcase that you can put in an overhead bin above your seat. So again, that transformation, I think, is going to be continuing. And as a professional futurist, and looking at where this is going, I really see that it's a natural evolution. One of the things of Industry 4.0 and 5.0, which is what it's really doing, it's beginning to emphasize the concept of continuous lifelong learning, because this ability to continually have to reskill, to continuously advance what you're doing, and the increased interaction between man and machine is going to continue. And we're going to see one of the big things where it was man, and I'm using the term man generically here, where it was people directing machines. It's now being increasingly people collaborating and cooperating with the machines. Now, as we look, for example, at the future of autonomous driving, the early part is going to be a delivery truck interacting with what's around it. Whether there is a human being on board the delivery truck or not, it's going to be local laws. Now, I'm looking forward to the day when I can get into a vehicle and be able to sit back and continue doing my work without having to drive. Already my car is some of the best conference call space I have, because I'm driving, but my other distractions are limited. And that's going to be the same type of continuing evolution for how humankind will work in the Industry 5.0, I think, Michael, going forward. I hope that is an okay response.
I am really happy that you dive into the past, because in Industry 5.0 we go back to roots. And what is interesting, I can tell you that the countries like Asia, like India, Malaysia, Asian countries, South American countries, we can call them underdeveloped countries, are closer to Industry 5.0 than the developed countries, because they are closer to the roots. They did not forget the roots. And here I am coming back to one, and you mentioned it. It's quite interesting. I would like to hear your opinion about this. You mentioned the old phone and old machine and so on. And I get back in the history, and I try to go really deep following the roots. And I realized that generally in the past, when we speak about 100, 200, 300, 500 years ago, the people cannot try to build a pyramid twice. They have only one chance. So generally, they have to be much more efficient than we are today. Of course, we have machines today, but they have only one try. And this is why they has been very careful how to put it. And we see the pyramids are standing until now, and they are few thousand or whatever years old. And if you look at the buildings which has been built, at least in my country 30 years ago, they are falling down. So there was something wrong in the development. And my question, the next one, sorry for asking so many questions, but the question, I love questions, you know, I love to answer and ask. The question is whether the relationship which you described before in your answer, if we can call it a healthy and unhealthy relationship. So in the past was not the phone line on my desk, which generally tell me when I should go to bed, when I should leave, and so on. But right now, even in the education system, I have a 19-year-old daughter. She asks Google for the answers. She does not go into books, or she does not make the search. She lets someone, which means Google AI, find the answer for her. So is it a way of education, the right way of education? What will she do when the Google will not be available? And it can happen. So plays without connection, or she will lose the battery, whatever. The question is whether we do not reach the very dangerous spot in which we will be really in a, I don't know how to say it in English, in a real meaning of the word, really addicted. Because when I go by train to my clients and I stay sometime inside of the waiting stations or the train stations, the people who enter do not look for water. They do not look for something to eat. They look for a plug to plug their electric device inside. And they immediately start to search the Wi-Fi. So they give a first more importance to their device than to their own life, which it's in my eyes very unhealthy development. So what do you think about this? Can we, because in the past we can say, sorry to that, I am not religious myself, so it's important to say. In the past, the people go to the church and ask the God for the answer. Today, you ask Google or Siri for the same answer. Because internet is omnipresent. And who is omnipresent? God is omnipresent. So isn't it really unhealthy relationship which we are trying to create, because it's so easy. It's so easy to adapt. Everyone can do. So the question is it really the right direction to go towards complete digitalization? Wouldn't the next one be, as we can see with Elon Musk, generally with this neuron, whatever, what he has or his people has developed, wouldn't the next step be digitalize the human being? Because then we can live in a metaverse, everything will be fine, no war, but we will not live. Our avatars maybe will be present, but not us. So this is why generally I created Industry 5.0, because I saw the complete picture and I saw the development. And I am happy that more and more people understand that it is better to live in wasteless world than on a global landfill. So what do you think about the healthy and unhealthy relationship to our technology and devices?
Professor David Smith, yes.
No, we do have that. I was looking for a slide I use often, and haven't put my finger on it yet. But I have a slide that depicts Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And my ego has this other one called Smith hierarchy of needs. And it's kind of describes what you were talking about there. You know, if I look at Maslow's, it's focused on our physical needs. And today, most of our physical needs are met most places in the world. And then you begin to go up that hierarchy of needs. Well, what I did above the basic needs, the base 2 levels, is I began to put Wi-Fi and internet connectivity as one. Then you begin to put your social network as one. And only when you have your access to the internet, your Wi-Fi, and your social connectivity can you have actualization. And you know, I said it. I produced that tongue-in-cheek, the Smith hierarchy of needs. But I, particularly when I've presented at universities, and when I presented it at more high-tech conferences like Innotech and others where I present, I have so many people come back and say, you know, your Smith hierarchy of needs is totally correct today. You know, I have to, above my base needs, I have to have transportation, which was not in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is in mine. And yes, if I don't have my Wi-Fi, I'm lost. You know, think today when you get off of a train or when you get off an airplane at an airport, How many people do you see they're searching for the Wi-Fi that we have there so I can have my digital connectivity? And only then can I get my actualization, which is my social actualization that you were talking about. And to me, that is actually kind of where we are today. And you see that, again, if I go back with historical basis, Maslow's hierarchy of needs was a fantastic concept. And it really looks at how we as humans satisfy ourselves. And it's continuing to evolve. You know, today, I would probably throw in my Smith hierarchy of needs a thing for lifelong learning, because where we are, and particularly where industry 3.0, 4.0, and now 5.0 is, that need is paramount to being successful in our future careers. The back when I entered the workforce, God, back in the 70s, you typically had during your life productive working time 5 to 7 different jobs. Could be in the same company, but different jobs. Today, if I were to go ahead and forecast a person leaving high school today, which I'm not going to even assume they're going to college because that whole paradigm has shifted. They're going to go through probably 35 plus job career changes during their life. You know, if you just begin to think about, we have probably 1 million plus web developers in the world today. The web is barely 20 years old. And how did that come on in place? We're looking at the metaverse, and it's a whole extension and evolution above what we see on the web today. And a lot of new skills. You know, I cannot take what we saw in the early days of that, and I go back to using Gopher before we even got a visual browser on the web, and learning. Well, if we were not in a time of lifelong learning, and digital transformation and what's happening in Industry 5.0 is an extension to that, society would be very different. What we're seeing, though, is that with the trends we see in digitalizations, the trends we see in automation, the trends that we are seeing in the future of manufacturing, the future of transportation, the future of governance, all these areas, they are the things that are letting humankind to continue to advance, to continue to evolve, and to strive. You know, when I look at the war in Ukraine, it underscores to me the power of digitalization still. Yes, war is a physical conflict, but look at how much of this war is being done applying digital technology to control standoff weapons, where a lot of this war, where past wars going back to the times of the Roman Empire and before, were physical. A lot of this war is not physical. It's digital and it's standoff. And, you know, I can see in another 20 years, there would be robots fighting robots, autonomous ships fighting autonomous ships, and taking more and more of the human out of it, which is that good? I don't know. Is it going to probably make more wars? Probably yes. But it's that transformation, Michael, that you were talking about there, and how it will continue to evolve. What I noticed as I was growing up, and my generation was the generation that began some of the peace movements. Why? It was because of the digitalization we had back then, and a lot of the digitalization was early stage analog to digital. But we saw the results of the war. What happened the day before came to us on our television sets. What we have today is we have instant communication. So I can go and pick up images off my Twitter feeds. Thank you, Elon Musk, for changing part of this. But I can pick up things on my Twitter feeds, and I can watch a combat activity in Ukraine in real time today. In real time, halfway around the world, watching in real time on my mobile device. That's changing how we interact and how we do things. And Industry 5.0, if I go back and become not just a futurist, but more of a philosopher for a moment, it's going to do the same thing for broader and broader parts of society. It's going to change how we look at manufacturing, and we're already seeing that. It's going to look at how the human versus machine role is changing, how we work across the supply chains. I am looking at, I hope we see mass customization, not driven by just me, the human placing the order, but I want to see the Internet of Things. I want to see enhanced sensor fusion, enhanced vision systems and things begin to add to mass customization. I remember the experiments of a decade ago where you could pick an avatar, put it on the screen, kind of tell it your body parts, and it would start suggesting clothes for you and putting them on your digital representation for you. I would like to do that today and say, my pants are a 38, but I'm really a 37 and a quarter. And instead of a leg length of 31, I'm really somewhere between 30 and 31, and have it begin to do that customization for me instead of me having to go and say, well, I want a pair of blue jeans that are 38 30s. And yes, I know I'm going to step on the back of the hem of it and wear those blue jeans out quicker. But have it mass customized for me, the things that my digital twin has in the system for me. And that's why I'm very excited about digital twins, not just in an industry basis, a commercial basis, but an individual basis too. And if you mentioned NASA earlier, and I'm doing a fair amount of work with NASA. If I go back and look at the Apollo moon missions where it blew up and had the explosion, they had in essence, a digital twin of that in Houston that let them experiment very rapidly to optimize the ability to get those astronauts back. Well, I can do the whole thing purely in digital now. I can use that as part of Industry 5.0 to increase the speed of execution of what we're doing in Industry 5.0. And I find that just terribly exciting. So, Sharif?
Michael Rana.
Thank you for that. Generally, I met digital twins in factories in an industrial environment where I see it as a very, very good tool. But here we came to the topic. I mentioned it last time, I think, that in Czech we have one saying, fire is a good servant, but very bad master. And this is where I came to the technology. I do not wear any watches, not a smartwatch, anything similar, because it's me who decide when I'm tired, not my smartwatch. And you just spoke about the NASA, which I mentioned at the beginning. A few minutes ago, just before this session, there was a published new set of tools which NASA would like to bring first to the moon to allow then the people to live there. And I read it through, and I came to the conclusion that still there's one thing missing. NASA scientists, or the people who made it, never considered, or at least it's not written in the list, that that the parts of the machines or the rackets or whatever should become useful on the place, not waste. They still behave like it is there, when not needed, we will scrap it. That's wrong. Because especially on Moon, where there is no possibility to call Alexa and ask Amazon to deliver, we have to utilize every single piece. And this is, here again, we are coming back to the roots. Let's use, it maybe sounds so that I am against the technology. I am not. I am not. But I would like the people use it really efficiently as a tool. Because as you mentioned, I can tell you, I do not watch the live war on any screen in Ukraine. Because when I was, I think, 19, the war in Iraq started. And I was in the age to go to the army. And I remember till today, I was working at a steel factory. I remember the first day of the war. And one radio host said following sentence. In the war was killed 50 civilians and 500 soldiers, which means soldier is not human. And it was so strong, it makes so strong impression on me that we divided human outside. And if I look that the wars should be done by robots, my question is, why should be there any wars? That's wrong. This is why you mentioned the COP27 output, this loss and damage fund. I am very sorry about creating this fund. Why? Because we should not wait till the loss is happening. We should prevent it happen. And unfortunately, I'm doing my work for 9 years. For 7 years, it has a name of Industry 5.0. In these 7 years, United Nations, European Commission, and everyone who is at the role of the role models of the world, or world leaders, how they call them, they do not even consider to prevent this waste to happen. So today in the morning, I spoke with one Indian company which generally developed a coating. So you put it on the wall and it reflects almost 93% of the heat of the radiation. It reflects back to the environment, which means if we apply it in our houses, we generally can cut away the air conditioning or heating. And it's just a paint. And they said that they developed it back in 2017. And because of the lobby of the producers of the air conditioning, heating, and many others, they has been not able to put it on the market. So we have to act in harmony and in unity. And as I said, and I said it to Antonio Guterres as well in a message, if the nations cannot unite, humans have to unite instead. And you see, there is no word about robot. We will use the tools as a tool. You know, people call me futurist, people call me strategist. I call me human because I feel and I do what I feel. And I test it every time when I propose something, I test it if I will be able to do it. If not, it's not the right way. And about the education, I would like the people learn again, even my daughter, learn again the manual skills. Something which you have learned as a kid. Because you was able to create something out of the bricks or Lego, I don't know, Lego bricks, for example. For me, it does not matter that it's square. I can build a car, a rocket, everything out of bricks because of my fantasy. Just now, even Lego introduced an app which you take a picture of the bricks and it shows you what you can build. Where is the fantasy? Where is the creativity? Where is the curiosity? This is what I feel as a danger. And just, Sharif, I have to say, I have to leave in 10 minutes time because I have another meeting. It will be concerning the war in Ukraine generally. So it's quite important for me because Industry 5.0 is involved in the recovery project of Ukraine. So I would like to give a word to Professor David. This time without questions. Sorry for that.
Michael, I always enjoy your contributions when I have the privilege of being on here with you. But you actually raised some principles, which I thought this is a great way to address it. If you want to find me ever on LinkedIn, look for Wicked Problem Solver. And that's one of the ways you can find me on LinkedIn. But a lot of the problems that you were describing, Michael, a lot of the problems we have today are problems that are wicked problems where there's no clean solution path to get there. And that one of the things that you see is that the problems may never be completely solved because as you begin to solve a wicked problem, it changes what the problem is. And as you continue to work to solve wicked problems, it works that way. But every problem is unique. There's not a clear problem definition. And you begin to see that. And Michael, I say this a lot on the World Health and Economic Forum programs, that everything today is a system of systems. And that understanding our problems today must take into account the full range of systems they touch. And if you look at, again, where we've gone from industry 3.0 to 4.0 to 5.0 and how those are actually meshed together, that's a great way to look at systems to systems. And that's why so many of our problems today in the future of industry and what becomes Industry 6.0 has to take that into account. And it's really hard to get the clean definition of what it is you're doing under wicked problems. Just like the definition of wicked problems is very well. When I put together, this is out of a brief I did for NASA. And I did a survey of about 500 industry leaders on what is a wicked problem. One of my favorite definitions was from the chief technology officer at Dell Computing here in Austin. And he says, a wicked problem is a problem that scares, well, I better clean it up for this broadcast. A wicked problem is a problem that scares the poop out of him and he cannot sleep. But, so many of our problems today are this way. And when I look at Industry 4 and 5.0, they're going to continue to go first. And, every solution has ramifications throughout the system. And most of our problems today and most of our solutions are connected to other problems and solutions. I can develop something in healthcare and I can use it in manufacturing. I can use it in government. I can use it in education. I can use it in so many different places. But one of the big challenges we have is that multiple stakeholders have conflicting agendas. And that's why, Michael, part of what you said earlier is that sometimes, even though things in Industry 5.0 make so much sense, they're hard to be adopted. It's hard for them to begin to move and spread across the society and from one country to another to the other. And a lot of it's because they're going to continue to evolve. The bottom bullet on the right-hand side is something that I'm seeing more and more truth today. In complex and wicked problems, the understanding of the problem continues to evolve forever. And that's what we're seeing in Michael, in Industry 5.0. I think that's true because as we see these the things interacting together, as we see the values change also to sustainability, but on the other hand, we also have to make a profit in manufacturing. As I see it, look at taking the worker not only in the workforce, but what they're doing across society is a key element of it. That will continue to evolve and change. And as we see education change and evolve, as we see training, as we see the boundary lines for nations become less of an issue, because so many of our problems we're trying to solve today are global, not regional. You're going to see these type of elements come into play. And to me, these are just some of the elements that really pull into the limelight what you were trying to describe, Michael. So I hope this kind of gives you a sense of my view coming back into it, particularly as a futurist.
It gives perfectly. I just would like to add, before I have to leave, two things which are related to what you said. Generally, for me, the aim of my work is to create wasteless world. It's not to promote Industry 5.0. Industry 5.0 is the solution to reach this goal or this aim, to create wasteless world. And what is interesting about this aim, because there is only one aim for me and one aim for the Industry 5.0, it is that everyone in the world, and trust me, every single one, have an image of wasteless world. And there will be three things at first. Clean water, which you can drink without being harmed, and you can swim inside. Clean water, which you can breathe without a face mask on and without any danger. And smiling faces of people who you love around you. Whether there will be new car, new phone, or whatever, these three things will be there. And no matter where I have spoken, to whom I have spoken, from CEOs to presidents to workers on the ground, all of them understand the image of wasteless world. So this is why it spread out so fast. And the second thing which I would like to add, in around 1995 or so, I realized at that time, you will remember, at that time everybody spoke about being out-of-box thinker. And I was immediately rated into this out-of-box category. And I was really happy because I was every time creative. But then when I started to build the wasteless world, on one conference which I was participating in, the speaker asked the audience, and there was about 500 people, who of you is out-of-box thinker? And 500 hands rise up. And at the moment, I realized I don't even see the box. How do I know that I'm looking out of the box? And at that moment, I decided to step out of this out-of-box community. And I become the first under the carpet looker. If you have something to hide, you hide it under the carpet. And this is where I find the ways, where I find the issues. And this is why I start every single project where walking through the factory, looking at the processes with my eyes, which are different than the others. And I do realize what they don't see, because you know very well the term professional blindness. And the people get it after later 6 months doing the same work. So if somebody like you or me or Sharif enter the factory, or children are great about it, we will recognize wasting in a much bigger form. And I have to apologize. It was a great discussion, David, and I hope, because we are connected on LinkedIn already, and I hope we will continue this discussion. Thank you, Sharif, for giving us the opportunity to talk about, because I think it's a very important topic. And let me at least say, please have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe and free. And I hope we will be able to meet on the construction site of Wasteless World together again soon. Thanks a lot.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This is excellent discussion, specifically for our youth communities, those who are developing startup, those who want to contribute for Industry 5.0. And this is the way we are actually developing a very, very strong ecosystem. This month, we have a large conference with Dhaka University, Bangladesh. You can say it's an Oxford of South Asia. We are working closely with Dhaka University, and we are launching some very, very high quality conference government representative like ministers and different corporation, financial institution, academy will join in this conference, and different speakers from World Talent Economy Forum, they also join in this conference. So I just want to share with you that World Talent Economy Forum creating a knowledge-oriented society in emerging economy with the help of developed world. The speakers, I want to give them thanks how they're supporting World Talent Economy Forum. We want more speakers. We want more contributors. And those who want to take action, they can join in our World Talent Economy Forum and in our real projects. We are building different kind of projects, smart city, hospital, school, college, universities, and developing startup ecosystem. Hopefully, your contributions can uplift the emerging economy and its community. Thank you, Professor David Smith, and thank you, Mr. Michael, for your excellent contribution for World Talent Economy Forum. Thank you. Bye bye, and take care.